Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into an event that completely redefined the global sporting landscape. We're looking back at the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Now, the World Cup is always a massive spectacle, right? But 2026 was different. It wasn't just another tournament to jot down in the history books. This was a completely unprecedented event that reshaped the sport as we know it. We're talking about football on a scale the world had literally never witnessed before. From stunning upsets and controversial decisions to deeply emotional farewells and a dramatic final, this tournament delivered unforgettable moments that are going to be analyzed for generations. So, the big question we're tackling today is this. How exactly did the 2026 World Cup fundamentally alter the scale and honestly the soul of the game? Well, we've distilled the key data, match highlights, and legacy reports to figure out exactly what happened. We're going to break down the revolutionary new format, the clash of generations, the intense climax of the final match, and all the controversies that followed. Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the big picture. A tournament of unprecedented scale. 48. That is a massive jump from the traditional 32. For the very first time in history, the FIFA World Cup expanded its format to include 48 competing nations. This was a monumental structural shift that completely changed the math of international football. By expanding the bracket, it gave smaller football nations their absolute biggest opportunity ever to step out of the shadows and shine on the world stage. And look, with more teams comes a staggering increase in matches. 104 matches, to be exact. Let that sink in for a second. 104 times teams took the pitch. Pity the fans who tried to watch every single minute. It became this absolutely grueling test of endurance. Navigating a tournament of this size required not just elite skill, but unmatched physical and mental stamina from every single squad. Now, to host those 104 matches required a staggering geographic footprint. 3 host countries shared this massive undertaking: the United States, Canada, and Mexico. They stretched the whole tournament across an entire continent, utilizing 16 different host cities. And this broke historical ground in a few ways. Mexico became the first country ever to host 3 men's World Cups, a huge milestone for their rich footballing culture. Meanwhile, Canada hosted its first ever men's tournament. It was just an organizational feat of a totally unprecedented scale. Section 2, Generations and Giants. Players and underdogs on the world stage. 2026 gave us some incredible underdog surprises. As always, we saw emerging nations rise up to challenge the traditional giants. Teams like Morocco, Norway, Cape Verde, Uzbekistan, and Jordan, many of them debut nations or rising squads, proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that they belonged on football's biggest stage. They delivered these shock victories and sparked emotional celebrations that reminded fans everywhere of one simple truth. In football, absolutely anything is possible. And this brilliantly illustrates the wild generational shift we witnessed. On one side, you have the legendary Lionel Messi. At 39 years old, he entered what many believe was his final World Cup. Every single appearance carried enormous emotion as millions watched one final chapter in one of the sport's greatest careers. But then, on the flip side, you have the explosive arrival of the next generation superstar, Lamine Yamal. Spain's teenage sensation brought immense creativity, confidence, and just a stunning level of maturity to help lead his team deep into the competition. It was this perfect contrast, the emotional farewell of a veteran giant and the bright dawn of a new era. As we hit the knockout stages, every match became a fierce battle for survival among the world's elite contenders. Argentina fought brilliantly through incredibly difficult matches, fiercely defending their world title. Spain displayed this remarkable tactical discipline throughout the entire tournament, clinically dismantling opponents. We also saw France, driven by Kylian Mbappe, who once again proved why he's among football's absolute elite with his devastating speed. And of course, we can't forget the unforgettable, dramatic performances from teams like England and Morocco. Round by round, the stakes just kept getting higher until only 2 teams remained. Which brings us to Section 3, the climax, the grand finale on July 19th. Let's walk through the timeline of this epic showdown. From the exact moment the match kicked off at 0 minutes, it was a grueling tactical chess match. For 90 incredibly tense minutes, despite the world-class talent on the pitch, neither team could find the breakthrough. The defenses just held strong. It wasn't until the exhausting minutes of extra time that the match finally delivered its decisive moment. Ferran Torres struck, scoring the winning goal that shattered the deadlock. Spain takes it 1-0. With that dramatic extra-time goal from Torres, Spain claimed their second FIFA World Cup title in history. The celebrations were absolutely monumental. But, as with all great sporting dramas, victory for one means defeat for another. For Lionel Messi and the Argentine squad, it was a heartbreaking end to what may very well be his final World Cup appearance, a truly poignant conclusion to a fiercely contested final. Finally, Section 4, the aftermath. Controversies and legacy. Now, it wouldn't be a World Cup without some debate, right? We had the usual intense discussions surrounding VAR reviews and critical refereeing decisions that sparks debate among fans worldwide. But beyond the rules of the game itself, there was a completely new element that caught the world's attention. New stadium entertainment features introduced during this tournament, which drew a huge array of fan reactions. And that brings us to a really fascinating observation captured by Reuters. They wrote, "American makeover leaves soccer facing battle for its soul." This quote is specifically referencing FIFA's decision to include its first ever halftime show during the final. Now, without taking a side on whether this was a positive or negative addition, it's totally undeniable that injecting this highly produced American-style stadium entertainment into the traditional flow of a football match became a major global talking point. So, what does this all mean? It begs a pretty thought-provoking question for all of us to ponder. Does this type of entertainment actually belong in football's biggest match? As the tournament expanded in size to 48 teams across an entire continent, it also seemingly expanded its definition of the matchday experience. It's a fascinating debate about the balance between modern global sports entertainment and traditional football culture. Ultimately, when we look at the legacy of the 2026 World Cup, it rests on two distinct pillars. Historically, we saw the sheer scale of 48 nations providing vital breakthroughs for new, emerging football nations. Generationally, this tournament simultaneously honored the legends who inspired millions of fans over the last 2 decades, while serving as the spectacular launchpad for football's next generation of stars. It was truly the end of an era and the beginning of a new one. At the end of the day, the beautiful game lives on. Every 4 years, football gives us heroes. It gives us incredible heartbreak, and it gives us absolute miracles. The FIFA World Cup 2026 delivered all of that and then some. One tournament, 48 nations, billions watching, and history made. It reminds us why football remains the planet's greatest sport. But as we look at the sweeping changes introduced in 2026, the massive scale, the new format, the halftime shows, I'll leave you with this provocative thought to consider. Did the 2026 World Cup simply expand the beautiful game, or did it permanently change what the beautiful game actually is? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring the incredible world of football.